Hello, everyone. Welcome back to In the Art Podcast with your hosts, Collin and Braeden Cox, as we record here on Monday, March 25th. 3 days away from opening day. Braeden and I are super excited. So we have been giving you division previews for each division. And this segment, we're going to be discussing probably one of the more boring, I guess you could say, divisions in baseball. The good old AL Central. Braeden, I think we've been starting 5-1. So we'll start with the last place team here. So
Yeah,
you could give me your last place team. Who's coming in fifth? I do want to say Fangraphs has the White Sox coming in fifth for the year. So I just wanted to see your thoughts.
yeah. I'm gonna have to agree with Fangraphs there. I mean, there's just nothing really going right for the White Sox right now. I'm gonna have them in last. It feels like that they're kind of in baseball purgatory at this point because there's been a lot of like you hate to use the word scandals, but just a lot of stuff going on that's like not positive for the clubhouse. Uh, going on in Chicago. They lost Tim Anderson, which I guess you could say was like kind of like a big piece of their team, even though like it did seem like that there were points where it did get toxic with him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he was still like an all-star caliber player, and now you don't have, you know what I mean? Um, so it's one of those things where they might not finish last, like they might exceed my expectations, but like, are they a playoff team? No.
Not
Maybe
at all. No.
you might have a better argument there, but like probably 70 wins, sub 70. Like that's my prediction. Like just off the bat, there's nothing really going on there, nothing special.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna have them in fifth.
Yeah. I know the White Sox. I have them in coming in fifth as well, Braden. They have a decent roster. They got Yohan Moncada. They have Luis Robert Jr. still. Benintendi
Yeah,
not in his prime anymore, but he's like okay. They have a decent offense, but I think their pitching is just so bad.
yeah.
It's just gonna really hold them back. I can't. I don't think I can name one pitcher for the White Sox like off the top
Debbie
of my head.
Garcia.
Yeah, it's exactly. So is he in the starting rotation? Like, is he projected to be a starter?
It doesn't say here. I'm just looking
Let me
on
check
ESPN,
real quick.
but yeah,
Um,
probably not though.
no. So I'm checking Fangraphs now.
I mean, Paul DeJong, he was like decent, right? He's a
Yeah,
pretty good player. Andrew Benintendi.
but like I said, like these guys are all kind of like out of their prime now. So
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, I don't think they're terrible, but I think the real problem is the pitching.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm going with the White Sox in fifth place. And
And
after this, though, I think it's going to
who's
be a
even
little
their
more
manager
interesting.
now?
It's not. I just looked it up. It's not Larousse anymore. It's I just had it up. I forget his name.
Pedro Fearful. Fearful? I don't know. I've
Yeah,
never heard of him.
Pedro Grifol.
He served as a coach for the Royals. Okay. We'll see what he's
I think he
got.
learned a lot from Larusa, but I think the White Sox were just tired of Larusa around. So yeah, so
Yeah.
White Sox coming in fifth. I know I'd be surprised if they don't. They could have a decent season, but I don't think they're a playoff team, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think just jumping into my fourth place team, I'm gonna have the Kansas City Royals. I'm gonna have them doing a little bit
Wow.
better than last year, but
Okay.
not enough better to like really make any noise. I could see the
Okay.
Royals finishing fifth as well. I think that there's
Wow.
more upside with the Royals than there is
Hmm.
the Chicago White Sox. Um, we were talking about previously, you got Witt Jr. You got some like quality like players and some like we talked about like some dudes that have a lot of potential. I just don't think that they are there yet.
That's fair. So I'm gonna disagree a little bit there, Brain. I'm going with the Guardians at four. I know Fangraphs is
Ooh,
projected. Fangraphs projects them to win or to come in fourth in the the Guardians to come in
in
second,
fourth
actually.
and
Second.
okay.
But see, to me, the Guardians, like they didn't really make any moves this offseason, right? Um,
No, definitely
and
not.
it seems like every year they're always like in the mix for the first for the first half of the season. They kind of like have a mid season like fallout kind of thing. They start dealing players and they just get worse kind of. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think they'll be in the mix in the mid in like before the trade deadline, and then after that they'll trade some pieces away and fall to fourth. I mean, it might be a little hot take there, but to
I
me,
think
it's the
that's fair
same thing
though.
with them. It's the same thing with them every year. They're kind of there. they're just very, very average, and they haven't done anything to get themselves over that cliff there.
Yeah, I mean,
So I'm going Guardians 4.
when was the last time really that Cleveland was relevant? I mean, they were in the World Series, what, 7 years ago at this point? Maybe it was
Yeah, it
even
was
more than that.
2016, 8 now.
Yeah. So it's
And like the
like,
2020
th-
season, they played the
yeah,
Yankees that
they've
one
made the
series, but
playoffs, but no one really looked at them as a threat. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So, I mean, I don't think that's a bad take. I think this whole division 1 through 5 is kind of a mosh pit of mid teams. So, like, you a team can go from being first to worst. You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah,
I don't know. We talked about this previously, but like, it's just there's nothing really. All the talent really is in the East and the West
yeah,
in this
for sure,
conference
for
anyway,
sure.
right? So it doesn't make for, it doesn't make for too much excitement in the Central. I'm personally going to have the Royals. They're going to do better than last year, definitely. I would think they're definitely going to improve from
Hmm.
last year. But I'll have them. I'll have them at 4. But you're
Yeah,
going to have them somewhere else. I'm
going
curious to see
yeah,
how far you got them up.
going off that, Brand, I do have them at 3. I think
Okay.
they're a young team. I don't think they're going to be great. Um, I think they're a couple years away from being good. They got Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, so super young team. They're going to be fun to watch. I think there's going to be like a little bit of a breakthrough year for them, not like a full breakthrough. They go out and win 90, 95 games. But I think they're going to be much better than last year. They get a little more experience now coming off last year. Bobby Witt Jr., to kind of build your whole roster around him kind of thing. Their
Yeah,
pitching's not great, which is kind of what's holding them
exactly.
back.
That's what worries me.
So that's what worries me too. But I think hot take again. I think they're gonna have a breakout year. Not gonna be like amazingly great, but I do have them coming in third in the division, which I feel like is pretty high expectations, higher than everyone else, I should say.
Yeah, let me ask you real quick. So they had 56 wins last year and 106 losses. What are you expecting?
So I'm going somewhere like I would say probably 70. I would go 70,
Okay, I think
75 in that range. I
to
think they
me
could do
that's a
it.
hot take, but
I think they could do it. They kind of like they're last year was definitely a rebuilding year for them. But I feel like they have a good operation over there. They won the World Series more recent than our Yankees have, right, in
true.
2015.
This is true.
So I'm
This
not
is
saying they have
true.
a great operation, but the young talent, they were really young
Yeah,
last year. So I just think they'll kind of have a little bit of a breakthrough this year. So
that's fair.
I'm going with
That's
3.
fair. Yeah, so at number 3, I'm gonna have the Detroit Tigers finishing third in the AL Central. Um I really like wanted them to be like my like sleeper in the NL this year. Not to win the World Series, but to like surprise a lot of people and maybe get a wild card spot. I just like again, it's like what we said with the Guardians. Like, what did they really do this offseason? They got
Mm-hmm.
Geo. They didn't do enough. I was hoping for like a big offseason for them, right? Their last like huge transaction was Baez. And like,
Yeah, that
he's
fell apart.
basically a
One of the
walking
worst
meme at this
contracts
point.
ever.
Yeah. He's a walking meme at this point. So like again, I went into last season hoping that the Tigers would do something really good for me to be convinced that they can make the playoffs. It's just not going to be this year. So I'm going to have the Tigers at 3.
That's a that's a good take there. I know like you said, they haven't really done anything. They are a young team. No, I will give them that.
True.
They got Torkelson, you got Riley Green. Gio's a little bit up there, but he's kind of more of a veteran presence there. Zach McKinstry, he's pretty solid. So I think there's a lot of young teams in this division. It's kind of what's holding them back right now because they don't have any of
Yeah.
those big name stars kind of thing. But I think similar to the Royals, I think probably 2 or 3 years this will be a very competitive division.
Yeah.
Just not quite there yet. I don't think either you know the Royals or the Tigers have really like turned the corner just yet. So, but I think they will next few years or so, but just not yet.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's funny because this division, you use the word competitive, like, oh, this isn't really a competitive division. I think it's going to be somewhat competitive because they're all kind of mid. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's
yeah,
kind of a mosh pit of teams. Like to me,
similar to the NL Central that we talked about.
exactly. Like to me, the way I look at it is there's a clear cut winner of this division,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a clear cut team that I think is going to finish last. Right? We might
Mm-hmm.
disagree there, right? But at least 2 through 5, like to me, it's going to be competitive by default because they're all kind of like,
Average.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, that's a fair
So
take.
it can kind of go either way. So at two, you had Cleveland at 4, right? I'm gonna have
Hmm.
Cleveland at 2,
Okay.
um, which is totally boring because I'm pretty sure it was like Cleveland finished second last year, and then the Tigers finished third. So
Yeah,
it's
you have
like
it
very
looks
similar to last.
you have the same predictions as Fangraphs does. Um,
Yeah. So I mean, it's just again like they didn't really do anything different. They won 76 games last year and lost 86. They actually finished third in division last year. Um, the Tigers jumped them late in the season.
mhm.
Um, but like to me, like that's probably about what they get next year too. Like I'd expect probably a losing record. Um, like 76
Yeah.
wins, maybe.
These
They might
all these
degress.
organizations, they're very reliant on their homegrown guys, like
Yeah.
their farm kind of their farm
Yeah.
system kind of. You never really
Yeah.
see them going out there making big splashes. Because Tigers signed Baez, but that did not work out for them.
Yeah.
Guardians haven't really made a big news. I think Jose Ramirez is homegrown with the Guardians.
Yeah.
Um, Royals by Wood Jr. He's homegrown too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think they're just this all around super young division, and they're just not going to be as competitive as these other big name teams.
Yeah. So it's not really even a knock on them. It's just like they
Mhm.
haven't done anything.
They're
Like
trusting the process. They're trusting the
Shane Bieber,
process. Yeah,
they still got him, right? He's still good.
yeah, but like he's not gonna have a Cy Young year, I don't think, ever again.
Exactly. So it's like I don't really have my expectations aren't too high.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah.
so my two team is the Tigers.
Yeah.
I think you said they finished in second last year.
Yeah.
Um, so I think they're gonna be like okay. I don't think they're gonna be great. I just think the fact that they're playing in such a average division,
Sure.
they're gonna
Yeah.
pull away with the second place finish there. Just because a little bit more talent, a little bit more experience there, um, like all around in Detroit. But I don't think they're gonna be like. I don't think I still would be surprised if they win like 85. I think that's their max. I would say probably like 82, 83 wins, probably just above 500. I would say for the Tigers.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm rolling with there.
I think that's totally fair. I mean, it's one of those teams like one of those things like I said how like legit and we talked about this kind of with the NL Central is like I think all of these teams are going to be for the most part like relatively close, so it's going to be competitive in that sense, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be like outstanding baseball to watch,
Yeah.
I would say. You know what I mean? And another thing to note is the Tigers finished ahead of Cleveland last year, but the Tigers finished the season like 8-2, and Cleveland finished the season like 3-7. Right. So Cleveland, like for the most part, was like ahead. They were like the second place team pretty much all
Mm-hmm.
season, and then they kind of fell apart that last week. It was kind of out of the picture that no other team in that division was going to make the playoffs. And then the Tigers kind of like made a like late push, I guess you could say, to end up finishing second. But that's besides the point because we're both going to have the same number one here, the same team that made the playoffs last year. Did win a series in the playoffs, and then was who they play Houston in the DS, the
Yeah.
Twins.
Yeah. I can't
Yeah,
remember the
it
top of
was
my head. I
definitely
think it
Houston.
had to be the Houston because it wasn't the Rangers because the Rangers played the
Yeah,
Orioles. So
yeah. So I'm gonna have the Twins, kind of by default as my number one
yeah,
team. I'm
I
sure you're
agree.
gonna say the
I
same
agree.
thing. Uh, yeah, they lost Sony Gray, but like besides that, you know, that's
Yeah.
basically they've just done the same. It's basically the same team from last year, right?
Yeah.
Pablo
They won.
Lopez kind of had like his breakout last year, I'd
Yeah.
say. I think his name is more out there now, so I think that does help. But yeah,
Yeah, you got Royce Lewis and Carlos
yeah,
Correa, Max Kepler, Byron Buxton, if you could say healthy. So
yeah.
pretty veteran roster
It's a good
there.
team,
It's a good
a
solid
solid team.
team. I don't have high expectations for them once they make the playoffs, but I do have high expectations for them for the Central. Like, would they win? They won the first playoff series in what, like 15 years last year? Wasn't
Yeah,
it like
something like that.
it was
Yeah, it was a
something?
long
It's been a
time.
while. It's been a while since they won the first playoff series, or since they won the last playoff series before last year. So yeah, I think they'll repeat. I think they, like you said, you hit the nail on the head with the Sonny Gray thing. I don't think it's going to affect them that much. Um,
Yeah.
but I think they'll be solid. I think they'll be a first place team in the Central. And then maybe they could make a little run in the playoffs there.
I agree. Over under 87 wins, the total from last year.
Over. I would say a little lower just because
I agree.
they
I
did they
agree.
had
I'm
the
like,
second place. They had the second place Cy Young last year. So they're
yeah,
gonna lose some games there. They didn't really make any moves this offseason either. So kind of concerning, but not super concerning. I just think the division, like we said, is just so not spectacular
average,
that it's gonna
mid.
be I think
Yeah.
the Twins will end up running away with it in the end.
Yeah. I agree. There's not even much more to say there. But yeah,
Cool.
that's all I got.
Think about wraps it up here and in the yard.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for listening. That's our AL Central preview. Braden and I have booked the tailgate tickets for Phillies versus Yankees on July 29th, but we do have one extra ticket, first come, first serve. And then if you can't decide, like we said, you could always get your own ticket and still stop by the tailgate. We'd love to have you there. It'll be a good time. We'll
Absolutely.
have food, and it'll just be a good time overall. So let us know. Reach out to Braden and I if you are interested in purchasing your tickets. We're in section 242. So if you want to get your
Yeah,
ticket somewhere near there or anywhere you want with another group of friends, but if you're going to the game, just make sure to stop by our tailgate, and we'll hopefully see you there.
for sure. It'll be a good time.